So we're excited to have everybody join us today to celebrate International Women's Month. I think I'm particularly excited to be able to talk with quite a few other people here at Cohere. It's one of the really fun things about working at Cohere, that we get to work with a lot of women in fairly underrepresented spaces. And so it's really a pleasure for me to introduce this panel and be able to start things off. So we'll wait one more minute before we get started with introductions, and then we'll get going. Really excited to see those of you who are here to join us today. All right. And just to kick it off, I'll introduce myself. My name is Autumn Moulder, so I run infrastructure and security here at Cohere, and I've been here since September of 2022. So right before the AI craze started, it has been a pleasure working at a startup in this space, and a lot of fun. So I will pass things along, and we will hear from Leila first.
Hey everyone, my name is Leila, like Autumn said, and I'm a software engineer on the model serving team at Cohere. And at a really high level, what that means is I work on the team that makes sure that all of our models are up and running as expected, both in production environments for our customers and also in evaluation and staging contexts for our own use internally at Cohere. And yeah, we pay attention to metrics like performance, cost, try to find a balance between those things. And it's a pretty fun mix between some more classic sysops and distributed systems type work, plus some more ML specific type work involving getting into the GPUs and learning about the different characteristics and learning about model characteristics and how those two fit together. So yeah, it's a really neat role. Yeah, and I will pass it off to Jessica now to introduce herself.
So my name is Jessica. I joined Cohere May last year, so almost a year now. I'm on the infrastructure team under Autumn, and right now my team is working on handling the H100s, which is a bunch of really powerful GPUs. Make sure they're not that flaky, and also have a way so that the machine learning engineers has a way to run trainings on those H100s. I guess I'll pass it off to Ye.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Ye. I joined Cohere last October, so it's actually around half a year. I currently lead the fine-tuning modeling team at Cohere. By modeling, that means everything related to the model itself and about training is the responsibility of my team. So basically, we're working on enable fine-tuning from modeling side, which means have the training library ready and also experiment with a lot of different fine-tuning algorithm to make sure we can make fine-tuning both memory efficient and also runs really fast. So yeah, that's me and my team. Before Cohere, I was at a different startup and also at Google for many years. Yeah, now I'm gonna pass it to Cécile.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Cécile. I joined Cohere 2 weeks ago actually, so I'm brand new. I work on the infra team with Jessica and Autumn. And before Cohere, I was at Microsoft leading a team for upstream Kubernetes. So I worked a lot with open source. I was a tech lead in the Kubernetes project. And so I have a background mostly in infrastructure and distributed systems. So I'm excited to join Cohere and learn a lot of stuff in the AI space. And yeah, 2 weeks has felt like 6 months, which everyone tells me is normal because things move fast around here. But yeah, I'm excited to keep learning and make an impact.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to hear. I haven't heard all the answers yet from everybody for the questions we have. So I'm excited to hear and learn as well about everybody's perspective here. But one of the first questions we wanted to get started with was just very broad. AI has, burst on the scenes and over the last year become very common. It's an emerging technology, but it almost doesn't feel like that because you hear it everywhere. So we wanted to just hear from some of you about what does AI mean to you? Like, what are you most excited to see it solve here in the near future? Jessica, I think you had some comments on that.
Yeah, so AI meant for me, I guess it's just more automation and statistics, like using some kind of really fancy stats to make things, like to predict things. But for me personally, I really like all the pair programming features that AI has generated, and for example, if I'm stuck before, I have to find human to either rubber duck it with me or like help me. Now I just talk to the bot, and then most of the time, from talking to the bot and their responses, I was able to debug the problem. That was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the common things that we've seen across the tech industry, right? Everybody's like, this is great. I don't have to block on waiting for another human. Yeah, it's awesome. Cecile, I think you had some comments as well.
Yeah, for me, I'm personally excited about AI for learning and growth. I think I've been able to use it myself in the past few weeks while I was onboarding on a new job. And I was actually able to use Cohere's Coral to answer some questions that I had about the company and benefits, or like where to find this presentation. And yeah, it was really nice that it was able to use retrieval augmented generation to fetch some information for me from various internal wikis that I would have otherwise had to spend, hours looking through. And I think it can be really useful to just improve productivity in those cases. And then I think I'm really also excited about, I think there's a lot of untapped potential in industries like education, healthcare, and climate change that we're yet to see. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting sitting from within a startup in this rapidly moving space, especially because when we try to use the tech, we kind of know the paths to go backwards to say, hey, this doesn't work well. How do we make it better? We know the teams, we know the people to talk to. So it's definitely an interesting position to sit at. So like you mentioned, Cecile, it's the entire field is changing very, very rapidly. I think you mentioned in your intro, it feels like 6 months, you've been here 2 weeks because we're moving so fast. And those who are in the audience know that in engineering, if you move fast, there's kind of a trade-off between quick, stable, easy to, automate and repeat the same components. So that creates a lot of really unique challenges for us while we're trying to architect systems that can we go to production really fast? Can we keep a stable system? Can we pull up the latest set of changes that were released in a paper that came out yesterday, or something like that? So I would love to hear, Leila, if we could start with you. What are some of the key engineering challenges you've seen trying to take AI to production, particularly in an inference context?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, like you said. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, which is, everyone is facing right now, is like just getting capacity. Like we're to some extent GPU constrained. Everyone is trying to get their hands on H100s, A100s, because we literally can't serve all of our models if we can't get the GPUs to run them on. But yeah, we don't have as much control over that as I would like. So if we're talking about things that like we can work with more, there's always an interesting trade-off between performance and cost. On the model serving side, I work with people both more on the finance side, infra side, and also more on the modeling side. And one side is asking me to, save us a little more money because like our costs are getting quite high. And the other side is like, why aren't we getting faster latency? Why aren't we getting higher throughput? And so trying to find the best balance between that is, it keeps me busy. And then even within performance, there's trade-offs to be made between like latency and throughput. And so of course we try to maximize that, but there's also just a lot of thought that goes into what are we like, what are we trying the hardest to maximize? What can we compromise on? Things like that. And then, you know, again, because we're in production context here, you know, there's just always this, you never really know what you're going to get in terms of production traffic. It can be quite spiky at times. And so, you know, the performance we get in production is never going to be the same as we get when we're running like theoretical benchmarks, because, you know, the real world just isn't like that. And so there's a lot of interesting work that we do in terms of thinking about batching strategies, about auto scaling strategies, and trying to make sure that we can, yeah, just always have as much performance as possible, without just throwing all of the money we've raised at it.
Yeah.
Preferably as part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know like we on your infrastructure side of the house can appreciate some of those scaling challenges and difficulties. It's just very different from if you're running CPU-based workloads where supply chain is not as big of a problem. But I think everybody's well aware that that's a challenge now in the AI space. And yeah, I agree. There's a lot of interesting engineering problems to kind of free that up. Yay, I would love to hear on your perspective on like fine tuning. What are some of the key challenges you've seen, engineering challenges you've seen going to production?
Yeah, one major challenge we are facing is actually evaluation. How to tell the model after fine tuning is definitely working better than before, or like by how much better. Because the problem is a lot of the tasks we're facing using AI, or in our case, large language model, is for generation. So the generated text is not like having fixed or correct answer like multiple choice or single choice questions. So we need to find out a way to actually do the evaluation right. So far, a lot of the efforts has been you have to look at the results manually. So you need to check some of the samples to say, okay, whether it's working right or not, and also have some criteria. Say, for example, like just text length, or is it being friendly? But those are not really enough for a lot of generation tasks. We are constantly working to have more proxies that can represent the quality of the generations. And also we're trying to automate this process. But yeah, it's a very hard problem and we're trying so much to actually tackle it.
Great thoughts. Yeah, I completely agree. Like automation in all spaces is one of the places we want to get, but like many new industries, you have to start out with a lot of just like manual work or experiments in a lot of different places before you know where to automate and how to go fast. So like I love your highlight on evals being one of those places where we I think the whole industry is figuring out how to move faster there. We have a question here that I think is really key. The space of AI used to be kind of isolated. There weren't a lot of engineers who had experience there. So something we've noticed as we've grown the company is we have to look outside of people who have maybe traditional research backgrounds. And it's been really interesting trying to bring people together. You know, I come from one of those spaces where you don't have the traditional AI background, but if you have traditional experience in how to build software or run infrastructure systems, a lot of these, the experience that you can gain in other areas is it translates really well. And, bringing that together with people who have like deep research expertise, is a powerful combination. So I would love to hear, Leila, if we can start with you. What's a lesson you've learned in your AI career, which is not your entire career, that you wish you knew when you started?
Yeah, I think I would kind of just piggyback on what you said, and that like, you know, you don't need, for example, a graduate degree to get started in AI and ML. You don't need to have been doing this for the last 10 years. I think that's a misconception that I held, I think, earlier in my career. And I think that probably held me back from getting involved in the space as soon as I might have otherwise, because I thought, oh, I don't have the experience, I don't have the degree, like, why would anyone want to work with me? But that's actually not the case. Like, it's like you said, it's a really new field. not that many people actually have the experience yet. Like we're building this as we go. And also I found that experience from, you know, my like pre-ML or like less ML specific engineering career, like that has also been super, super helpful in my current role. Just like a lot of the basics of what it means to build scalable, reliable systems. Like at the end of the day, that's what these LLM services are. You know, they also have these ML specific things, but there's a lot of fundamental systems work being done. And yeah, learning on the job has been super, I won't say easy, but it's something that has been very possible. I've learned a lot on the job. People at Cohere in particular have been just super welcoming and friendly and open to answering like all kinds of questions. Even if I might feel like it's a dumb question, I've learned that I can just ask, and people are just really open to explaining things and to helping me learn. So yeah, I would say definitely don't count yourself out. I'm glad that I didn't entirely count myself out, and I would just encourage anyone who's listening who is maybe wondering if they have the right skills or experience to you know, think of the skills that you do have, and you know, sure, own what you don't, but realize that the skills that you do have probably translate into the space more than you might think at first.
Completely agree. And, you know, worst case, if you can't ask a friend in Cohere, you can ask Coral. So, all right. I think Jessica, you also had some really good thoughts on this. A key lesson that you wish you know, you've learned throughout the last, I think, year, right? You've been with us for a year, so that you wish you knew when you started.
I think it's similar vein to what Leila has been saying. Just ask questions, and then usually I did not know a lot of terms. How AI works before I come here, and whenever I don't understand a concept like data parallelism, like this is completely new to me. I just grab a machine learning engineer and just ask, well, can you just tell me what this term means, but dump it down so that I can understand without understanding the math. And they're all very nice about it. Yeah.
And I think this is where we pull together people with different backgrounds. You know, Jessica, you spent a lot of times in test and like getting code to production faster and that kind of thing. So it's been really interesting, I think, as we've looked at how do we get code to production from an ML space where everything's very kind of research oriented. That's how we start the code base. And seeing how do we make that faster, and taking like different experience like yours, and then translating that to, well, what we need to do is so tightly coupled with hardware from an infrastructure perspective. It just creates a unique set of challenges. But yeah, like I love your answer. Like this is where we get a lot of people together, and having the right group of people who are just willing to talk and collaborate across different areas of deep expertise is valuable. I think yay, we have, you know, you actually do come from an AI background, and so one of the things that we talked about, like, what for you in this industry, what has been the most exciting or pivotal moment as you've had a longer career in AI?
Yeah, I think my pivotal moment will be actually similar to a lot of people's experience with AI is when ChatGPT proven to be so powerful. Because for myself, I've been working as an NLP engineer. So for me, before that, the AI concept in my work has always been we have to train so many different ML systems to only work on small part of NLP, which means say we need to have a separate system to understand the tone of this text. Is it positive or negative? And we need to have a separate system to pick out some entity from this whole text, which means if I am talking about company, which company it is, like, or if I'm talking about some like enterprise terms, which kind of term it is. So normally like a chat system consists of like a series of different ML systems. They are small, but focus on a single task. But when ChatGPT came out so powerful, it made us all realize, yeah, we can definitely have something more powerful with a lot more resource. A lot of the work we were doing will be completely different. We're not working on small, single, different systems. Instead, we can try to work on one large language model that's capable of so many different things. So that was definitely the pivotal moment. Even though a lot of concepts like transformer we've been so familiar with. I was working on it for so many years since it came out because luckily I was at Google at that moment. But it's still a very, very pivotal and amazing moment for me to realize how things could be really, really different starting from that point.
I love it. Like, I think it's well, it's exactly like what you said, and again, what the entire industry has seen. Like, it's a different way of thinking about the problem, which opens up a lot of additional ideas, right? If you start from a different spot. So again, you've been in the industry for a while, yeah, but Cécile, we have someone else who just started, kind of coming from a different background. There's a lot of people probably on our call who have different experience, maybe infrastructure, maybe software engineering, maybe an adjacent space, but you may be hesitant to apply for roles like this. So what would you say to encourage people to give it a try?
Yeah, I mean, this question, like you said, hits very close to home for me because I just made the switch. So I would say, I think what Leila said earlier is very, very true. And I'll piggyback on that. I think the first thing I will say is every expert was once a beginner, right? So you have to start somewhere. And you don't need to become an expert before you start. You actually learn by doing and being part of the industry, and learning on the job is a huge part of it, I think. And AI is at such a pivotal moment right now. Things are changing so fast that I think it's as good as the time as any, right? I haven't really met anyone yet who has 10 plus years of experience in LLMs, but let me know if you find them. And I would say the other thing is, like, if you want to build a strong engineering team, one of the key things is to have folks with diverse backgrounds and people who are going to have those different experiences. So sure, you're going to want to have experts in ML and people who've been there for a while, and you want to have people who are very deep in research and all of that. But you also want to have, I think, engineers who have a very solid understanding of distributed systems, networking, data, cloud, etc., so that you can build a scalable, reliable system and bring it to production. I think a lot of the barriers to AI, barriers of entry, have not been solved, but we've made a lot of progress recently. I'm not going to say it's a solved problems because otherwise I'm going to get all the ML engineers mad, but it's a very, I think now it's become more much of an engineering problem that it used to be, right? And it's about figuring out how do we get all this compute, right, to work together to train these models that are becoming bigger and bigger, and how do we make these systems reliable, like more fault tolerant, and how do we build around network faults, etc. So those backgrounds, I would say, for folks in infrastructure and other adjacent software engineering industries are very, very relevant to this, even if you don't have a more traditional AI background.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And I'm going to comment a little bit on this as well. I remember in the, 2011, 2012, 2013, when clouds were starting to become a thing, right? Everybody had their on-prem data centers. Obviously, I'm in infrastructure, so I'm going to talk about it from this perspective. But I remember how everyone had their on-prem data centers, and everybody had expertise there, but everyone was trying to start hiring people in like 2015, 2016, even, who had more cloud expertise, because everyone's like, oh, this is the next thing. This is how we're going to run data centers. And you'd go around, and every job posting out there, I had people pressuring me saying, we need somebody with 10 years of experience in cloud. What does that mean? What do you mean 10 years of experience in the cloud? It's been around for 3-4 years at most, and tiny startups have used it. Large enterprises haven't figured out how to use it yet. We're going to go through the exact same cycle with AI, and I think for engineers who have been in the field, you know, you can't let the fact that you haven't used it stop you. But one of the things that's really interesting about AI that wasn't necessarily true with the cloud thing. With AI, you can try it out so much easier on your own. You can make changes in your current business much faster than you could if you wanted to get everybody to shift your processing from an on-prem data center to a cloud system. So the rate of change is easier. The way you can make changes, you know, where you are is easier, and you can start now. You don't have to be working at a company like Cohere to start getting experience doing things. You can just do it today and start to see value a lot faster. It's one of the cool things about this whole field that I love, and I think it's a lot of fun. On that topic of things I love about Cohere, so I mentioned at the beginning, working at Cohere, we have a lot of women in underrepresented spaces, particularly, you know, we're talking here about inference and infrastructure, but it's fun. It's enjoyable to be able to work at a place where the balance is nice. And I would love to hear, maybe we'll start with you, Jessica, advice or, you know, something you want to share with other women who are looking to enter the field. What would you want to share with them?
I feel so. I used to work at Shopify and then work for finance, like a credit card company. I feel like this is every single industry you go to, you always have to learn new terms. But at the end of the day, it's a similar concept. You just need to know how to run Kubernetes cluster. You need to know how to code. You need to know how to run the local development. So to me, so far, I'm pretty sure every single company you go to, you're going to learn a new set of industry terms. And AI feels like no different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as women, sometimes it's harder because we want to, you know, be seen as experts right off the bat. And so sometimes it's harder to be open and vulnerable. Hey, like, this is a new space I don't know. Don't let that stop you. Well, I think we've had that theme here several times. You know, I think, Yay, I think you also had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think I can give some advice to somebody didn't touch ML or AI in general at all before. I think the core part is if you do want to start working on something on this, don't get intimidated. Because the good thing for now is there's so much resource on the internet that you can actually learn. There are free courses that you don't even need to pay, and there's so many different blog posts explaining things. And there are also some fantastic blog posters. They summarize all the new technologies and the paper you need to read to get started. And the simplest thing would be even just watch some YouTube videos, and they are explaining things so well. So you can actually start learning. I mean, it's hard for somebody who never actually worked on machine learning before to start because it requires a lot of like math, algebra, like type of knowledge. It might seem intimidating to start with, but what I want to say is there are so many good resources on the internet to help you get started. So if you really do want to start, just don't feel like there's no way to do it. Just utilize all those resources, those free resources online. You can definitely get a good start.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know we have a few questions that have come in, so I'm gonna go glance at those, and we'll answer a few of those right now. So from Lucy, we have you know, Leila, you mentioned the GPU access, and so talking about compute. Do we think that at this point, semiconductor advances, so like hardware, quantum compute, is that the way to go? So do we need to move beyond more silicon? I don't know if anyone here has a specific thoughts on that. I'll give it a shot. From my perspective, there's definitely advances that need to be made in specialized hardware, whether or not that's you know, quantum computing or another space. I mean, I think there's some very interesting moves and research papers coming out around like, do you actually need, you know, do you need to use floating point to run an LLM? What kind of specialized hardware does that open up? I think for now, that's all kind of like the bleeding edge. And certainly from within a Cohere perspective, we're extremely focused on like, how do you take this to an enterprise, which means that you have to think about like distribution and supply chain. What will an enterprise have access to use versus what would they need to come to a centralized team to use. So if you're going to have specialized hardware, that's always going to start out with a kind of centralized service that people have to come to. And then over time, it will bleed out, and you'll figure out how to distribute it to a lot of different companies. But certainly with our focus, it's how do we make sure that enterprise organizations who have access to GPUs and CPUs, that's pretty much what they've got. How do we get things in their hands so that we can like spread the adoption of AI? If anyone else wanted to answer that or share on that. All right. The next question, we have a question from Sarah, who's a registered nurse and is looking to get into entry-level positions with AI. So are there room for women and individuals like that? And just really is excited to see what healthcare is going to do in the future. What advice do we have for Sarah? And I'm actually going to throw that one to you, Cécile, because I know you just kind of talked on that briefly.
Yeah, so I think before I mostly focused on folks who are already in the software engineering fields, who have software engineering background and experience, but not specifically in AI ML. So I think this is a really interesting question because it's talking about like different industries altogether. I would say there's definitely room for that, especially I think as the field gets more mature, we'll see more applied use cases of AI to use AIs to augment productivity and make breakthroughs in industries like healthcare. So I think probably getting very familiar with like using AI and being a user of AI is a great place to start. And like Autumn said, you don't even need to be in the field and in a job to like play with it yourself. Like there are resources out there to start getting more familiar with it. So I think starting to get more familiar with it as a tool and maybe integrating it in your day-to-day workflows is a really good place to start.
I completely agree. I think we had a couple other questions along that similar vein, right? If your current job doesn't line up to ML ops, if you're non-technical, how do you get involved? I'm going to take a stab at it, and then we'll actually let everybody take a quick pass if they've got a suggestion. But just how do you learn? What are the resources you can use if you're in a non-technical field right now? We do Cohere, actually. We'll do a little branding here, but we have something called LLM University, and there's many similar things out there that you can use to start learning. Just completely off the cuff from my own experience, with family members who are not technical, with individuals who don't necessarily come from an engineering background, but find this fascinating and want to talk with me about what do I do from a day job perspective. Just interacting with it is incredibly valuable, because figuring out how you can take how can you take a large language model? There's several companies out there, and Cohere being one, right? You can log on to cohere.com. You can use our playground and try out our model. And just learning how to interact with a large language model and what kind of how can it help you? I mean, Jessica called out and Cécile called out how it helps them upskilling just from ground zero, just starting to experiment and use it, and then bring kind of your unique knowledge from what is it you do, what's your expertise, and how can large language models help you in your day job is incredibly valuable, and I think is a set of skills you'll want to have. It's like learning how to Google 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. Anyone else on the panel have a thought they want to share? Yay, let's go with you.
Yeah, I do have a suggestion for people that's non-technical at all and want to get in the industry. So by technical, it doesn't mean you have to code. There's so many different roles and so many things get involved in the whole process. All my experience working as an ML engineer all these years, I've worked with numerous fantastic data annotators. They're so important and critical to ML training. That's just one example that you don't really have to be really technical to start as a data annotator. I'm mentioning this role is because there's so many different things like this you can do that doesn't require you need to have a coding background or anything, but that's also a fantastic and critical role for all the ML work. So I'm just saying, like, just start looking around. You don't need to have to be coding or start coding to actually get involved.
Completely agree. Leila.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I think, Autumn, when you were talking about just using the models being really important, I was reminded that one of the newest job titles in the world is prompt engineering. And I don't think we hire any of those at Cohere yet. But as you might know, like the performance for models can change a lot based on what kind of prompts you give it. So basically how you phrase the questions that you're asking it, or how you kind of like frame things to it. And so, of course, it helps to have an understanding of how transformers, LLMs, that sort of thing works to do that sort of work, but it definitely doesn't require like, going super deep in the math. If you understand at a conceptual level what's going on, you can make some interesting advances to that field. And similarly, there is this whole concept of safety for LLMs. We are creating these really powerful, intelligent systems, and we want to make sure that they're not used for the wrong purposes. And we take that really seriously at Cohere. And it's a hard problem. And another interesting kind of like new role in the world is red teaming or trying to jailbreak, or basically trying to hack LLMs just by talking to them and just by trying to get them to give up maybe data they've been trained on, or try to extract information from them that maybe shouldn't be extracted from them. So that's another potential way to get involved in the industry without necessarily being like writing the code or doing the math.
No, I love that. I love that answer. And just kind of reiterates, right? Like there's so many ways to get involved. Just don't let yourself be scared off by the lack of expertise. Like nobody who ever did anything great knew all the things they needed to know. So you just start. All right. Any more comments on that from the panel?
I guess I have one short thing. I didn't realize this. So I'm on infrastructure, so I mostly deal with like, I guess, infra stuff. I didn't realize how much I need to use from like university. So things like networking and operating system. And I have not touched those for the last probably 9 years. And then now for the past 3 months, I constantly have to refer back to the book to see what debugging, like how it relates to my work. So I guess like if you're in the technical field, like ML has a lot of reference to things that's a lot more low level from my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more coupled. Actually, I'm glad you said that, because that is a great lead into what we'll the last question I've got from the audience here. What's the most pressing need from the cloud and the data infrastructure perspective to help us move forward the LLM and AI space? Do we need more data centers? Do we have to figure out how to like charge better for GPU and compute, that kind of thing? And again, I'll make a short comment, and then anyone who's got thoughts on this, along the lines that Jessica was saying, ML workloads have a much tighter relationship in our experience to infrastructure, much stronger needs for the type of infrastructure that they're running on, and that infrastructure is not as widely available. So you both need people who are capable of making those connections, but it also means that as an industry, you can't broadly distribute, right? Not everybody can run a very large model. It doesn't necessarily have access to the compute they need. And so when we say what's the most pressing need, I actually would say it's probably not with cloud and infrastructure itself. It's my guess is it's, you know, some of the work that you know, Leila mentioned already, like what do we do to optimize? How do we serve in a more efficient way? Is a really critical problem, and that's on how we're building the models and what are the serving frameworks that we're using for deploying those models, and how tightly coupled are those to unique infrastructure. Like that's a critical issue we have to solve as an industry before it can really broadly distribute. Other thoughts from the panel about what's going to help us broadly distribute and you know, move forward the market?
Yeah, I think the industry as a whole, this isn't something we do at Cohere, but the industry as a whole, I think needs to, and is working on improving GPU capabilities and basically tying the hardware design tighter to how these models are actually being trained and served. Because the H100s that have been coming out in the last few months, last year, those were designed years ago. It takes NVIDIA a long time to go from design to actually production to actually shipping those out to different clouds. And so those are actually not necessarily optimized quite yet for the models that we are developing today and serving today. So I think over time, we're going to get hardware that's a better match for the direction the modeling is going, and that will help a lot as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree completely. Cécile, Jessica, yeah, any thoughts you guys have on the infrastructure?
Just from my personal experience, I like while I was working as a backend developer for other technologies, mostly on CPUs, usually you hit a bug, maybe like a weird bug, like once every 10 pull requests that you change. And then things usually like you search on the GitHub repo, there's a number of people describing these issues. Nowadays, because everything's bleeding edge, so I'll be reading a doc probably produced like 2 days ago, or a repo that someone just whipped together, like hopefully that the longest I've seen is like a week ago. And then no one else know why this bug is happening. So you really have to debug and read the code and then try to fix it. So I feel like I have become a much better programmer because of this, because I have to debug every single one of them by myself.
Yeah. No, it's a good call out. Also, I think very relevant to the question of what do we need to drive forward adoption in the market. All of the tool, like the entire tool chain, the entire stack that we're using, everything's very bleeding edge and not stable. I think I was joking with you know, a support engineer from another company that you know, I go look at the libraries and the dependencies we're using in our software stacks, and everything's like v0 dot something, right? So it's which is it's a very different world than when you're using systems that have been out there. It's stable. So stability of the whole thing is just, I think, a big challenge that has to be addressed to get to broader adoption. Not every company is going to be able to invest the time and effort into debugging some of these tool stacks. You need something that's a lot more reliable. Any other thoughts on what do we need? All right. I know we are running close to time, so I think we'll wrap up here. I really appreciate like every one of the panelists for taking their time out of the day. Again, bleeding edge and moving very fast at a startup here. So I know everybody has a lot of irons in the fire, but I really appreciated you guys taking the time to sit here and talk, you know, in honor of International Women's Month, which it's really enjoyable to see a lot of the growth of our industry overall, and the fact that we have such a diverse group of women to work with here, in addition to our all of our other counterparts here at Cohere. It's just a rock solid group of people, and I've really enjoyed it. So you know, we'll just go around any last commentary from the panel. We'll start with Cécile, if you don't mind. Any last thoughts?
Sure. I think the message that just resonated with me here is how everyone was saying, like, yeah, you don't need experience or expertise to start. And so I think that's a really great message to take away today. If you're interested in getting more involved, then it's a great time. And yeah, thank you so much, Autumn, for hosting. And it's been so great to hear from all of you.
Let's pass it over. Leila, any thoughts?
I'm just really inspired by yeah, all of you guys. Listening to you talk is yeah, and it's fun to look at it from sort of a slightly outside and be like, oh yeah, like we do have a lot of really awesome women doing like really strong technical work at Cohere. And also just seeing how people in the comments are excited about it as well. Yeah, I think it's great, and I'm really grateful that you organized this.
Thanks. Jessica, any final thoughts for our attendees and panelists?
I guess this movie, because you're my boss too. This is my first time working with this many women that are senior engineers, and I'm really happy about this, because usually I'm the only woman on like entire team of, I don't know, 5-10 people. So, and I have been learning a lot from other women, and I really appreciate it.
Been a lot of fun. And yeah, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, pretty much same feeling that I am so honored to work with so many brilliant women at Cohere. We're only a very small representation of all the women working here at Cohere. But also I want to tell everybody that, as you can see, we are all coming from different backgrounds, working on different things. So it's like, if you really want to step into AI industry or even start something technical, it's definitely doable. And you can see we're all working on really interesting things, and everybody's doing a great job. So I want to say, like, for all women out there want to get started, if you really want to, just do it.
I love it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.